Why are you wearing house slippers again?
I'm not wearing house slippers. These are a mix between moccasins and house slippers. Business on the bottom, party on the top.
Hey, what do we have here?
This is called an M82 unit. That is a Nintendo NES demo kiosk. So it was placed in retail stores, and you could demo 12 different games on it.
So, in simpler terms, you play Nintendo on it.
You could play Nintendo on it.
Okay.
I'm here today to sell my M82 demo unit at Nintendo Entertainment Center. The M82 was distributed to retailers back in the 80s so that people could come in and play 12 different games and try them before they bought them. I am a little bit of a video game nerd. I'm a video game collector. Today I'm looking to get about $4,500 for the Nintendo.
It is really interesting. I mean, Nintendo in 1983 came out with the Famicom. It was basically an acronym for the family computer. It was released in Japan. In 1985, they came out with the Nintendo Entertainment System. They did not want to call it a video game.
That's right.
Because at this point, home video games were basically dead in the United States because everyone got burned out on the Atari 2600.
That's right.
So Nintendo did something that really wasn't done very often back then. It's not even done today. They told all the retailers in New York, if you can't sell them, we'll buy them all back, which would have probably bankrupted the company.
That's why you would have needed something like this, because if you were able to play something like this full of different games, it might convince you to buy a Nintendo right there.
This was only at a retail center, only sent to retailers themselves. So to get one of these is pretty darn rare. There's basically 12 Nintendos in this thing.
So how did you get this?
Somebody who was friends with someone who worked at a retail center bought it and then resold it to me.
So it works just like a Nintendo?
Just like a standard NES, you can just play 12 games. That's the difference.
So you have to blow the cartridge out before you play it?
Absolutely.
Okay. How much you want for it?
I'm looking for $4,500 for it.
It's super cool, I'll give you that. Anything early Nintendo and certain rare Nintendo things are going for insane money. I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this is worth money. I just don't.
Yeah.
I actually have a guy that is in the video game business, like he deals in all this vintage stuff.
Sure.
If I can call him up and have him take a look at it, we can go from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna go give him a call, hang out, and don't break it, chum.
I'm gonna go find a TV, we'll test this thing out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a M82 NES.
You don't see these every day. I love this kind of stuff. As a preservationist or someone who loves the history of this is really something cool. Back in the day, stores that were selling Nintendo games would have to look through these things called merchandise manuals. And they would pick different items that they would want to put in their stores to help sell their games, essentially. Something like this costs a store owner a lot of money. And what I love about this one is that it's not something you just look at. This functions.
Okay, cool. Let's test it out. Is it all plugged in, chum?
Yeah, it's plugged in. You probably don't know how to do it, but you have to turn the power on.
What game is this?
So this is actually really cool too. This is kind of something different. This is called a homebrew. People who loved NES games and also knew how to program stuff, they started programming their own NES games. It's something someone crafted in their own garage or their basement. They weren't licensed by Nintendo or any official company. It's just a passion project.
Someone just made this?
Yeah, this guy, Kevin Hanley, programmed this game as well as several other fantastic games. I think this one's called Nescape. And you gotta kind of go through the different rooms, gotta just kind of figure your way out.
This is cool.
There's a very niche kind of aspect to the video game collecting where it's not just about the games, it's about all the peripherals, it's about the display units. Basically, if it wasn't meant to be collected, it's collectible.
Okay, so what's it worth? I mean, is it in good shape? Is it,
Yeah, surprisingly it is. On the open market, these used to sell for $1,500, $2,000. So they've been valuable for a long time. But given that one hasn't come up in a while and that they're harder and harder to find, I'd say this is probably closer to $3,000 if it came up on the open market today.
All right. Thanks, man. I
Always
appreciate
happy
it.
to help.
All right, see you later.
Thanks.
He says I can probably get $3,000 out of it. I'll give you $2,000.
I could go to $3,500.
It would make zero economic sense for something that has a current retail value of $3,000, pay $3,500.
I understand. I think the market's higher than that.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for bringing it in, man.
Thank
It's
you.
really cool. And help him out here, chum.
Here you go. Sorry, my boss is a cheap ass.
No worries.
I need to learn more about these homebrew games.
They're cool. They're fun. I didn't make a sale today, but I still have a couple lives left, and I think I'm gonna hit the reset button and make a sale somewhere else.
That was pretty cool. I didn't know that you could get a homebrewed game made.
Yeah, these are like the next big thing, homebrewed Nintendo games. Have you ever heard of homebrewed games, like for Nintendo and
Like
stuff?
with beer or?
No, like, you know how there's Nintendo games licensed by Nintendo? Well, there's other people that make games in a Nintendo cartridge, but they just make it at home.
So people can make a Nintendo game now and play it in the old school NESs.
Like if I made a game, I'd be the character and you could sell it here at the pawn shop.
You're gonna make a video game about yourself?
Sounds like a good idea to me.
A video game character that does nothing would not be a good character.
I actually know Kung Fu.
Okay, you don't know Kung Fu. Are you gonna make a video game about napping?
No, maybe about, you know, getting rid of my boss or something like that, taking over his empire.
No one would ever buy that.
I'd be like a Kung Fu master and I'd come in and I'd take over the pawn shop. First level, I'd whoop Corey. Kata. Second level, I'd run right through you, and then you will no longer be a part of my dynasty.
That sounds like you have some issues. Corey, you listening to this?
Nope. Tuned out a minute ago.
No one's gonna want a Chumlee video game.
Why not? I'm badass.
There's pointless conversations that I've heard, but this is probably the most pointless.
You know what? The more I think about a homebrewed game, the better idea I think it is. I'm gonna go draw up a story plan.
So this is called a what?
This is a homebrew game.
And you brewed it?
I had it made, yeah.
What's the thing it's doing with the stomach?
It's trying to like attack me with a stomach. You know that movie you used to do when you were fat.
Oh, the belly buster. Is that what you call it?
That's what you call it.
Right.
This is where you guys are at.
Yeah.
What is this?
This is the best invention known to mankind.
So you made a video game.
Yeah, this is the adventures of Chumlee, the quest for Pinky.
Why are you kicking old people?
Because I know Kung Fu.
Chump,
And I'm in it too. Wait till you get to me.
What's the whole concept here, though?
It's a game about a prince who has to save his beautiful, beloved pup from an evil, evil, bad, bad boss who runs a pawn shop in Las Vegas. The boss is bald and overweight.
so that this evil boss isn't me.
It does have a resemblance to you, but, you know, we don't want to pay licensing agreements, so it's not you.
Is that supposed to be you?
Obviously, doesn't it look like me?
And you're beating up customers in the pawn shop?
These aren't customers, these are your goons.
Look, there I am.
There's your number one goon right there.
You see that? You see that thrust I'm doing? It's called the belly buster.
Corey, could you please just get them back to work?
I want to see what I look like in the game.
All right.
You look like a badass.
Pops, go to work.
You know what?
Just go to work,
Hey,
Dad.
Take
Just go
your
to work.
5 minutes and get over this, all right?
This is epic.
Let me see what my dad looks like.
I gave him a black goatee instead of a gray one, so he actually looks younger.